going to tell you about a shoot I did with model Kaila Stone, and my stylist for this shoot was Lux Tango. To start from the beginning, I wanted to do something in the vein of some of the old 1960s driving action scenes, and I specifically mean James Bond or the Italian film Diabolik. I find these to be a lot of fun. I think they have a unique effect to them, which you don't see in movies a lot nowadays, but back then it's called Rearprojection, where the driving footage is literally just projected behind your protagonist as they're driving and they're acting like they're actually in the scene. Even though modern movies would either have the driving for real or use green screen technology, I get a real kick out of this particular look, and I wanted to do a shoot based around it. I wanted to have an actual car chase where the same person is driving against themselves. So I'll have a good version of the person and a bad version of the person. And even though I mentioned these older films, a more recent example of inspiration is a TV show called Danger 5, which was inspired by the same exact sources that I mentioned before, James Bond and Diabolik. So the model that I chose for this was Kaila Stone, and she is somebody I found on Instagram and also Model Mayhem. They're two good places to find models either locally or in another city if you're traveling to one. I knew that Kaila was moving to Asia very soon, and I had an opportunity to work with her right before she left. She was mostly a fashion model, but when I proposed the idea, she was totally down for it. And Lux Tango is somebody that has done modeling and hair and makeup and body paint and all sorts of things with me for 7 years. So I had my theme, I had my person, I had my styling, and the location. I happened to have a studio, so that wasn't a big deal. What I needed for the shoot was the background material and some props, because it's one thing to say you have a big idea, it's another thing to get all the parts together to make that idea work. So the background footage, I stuck my camera in the back seat of my car, and then I drove around on the freeway a little bit and just filmed that. That was my footage. I already owned the projector, and in my studio I planned on just projecting this against a big white screen. The props that I needed were a car seat, a steering wheel, and then other things to make it feel like we're actually in the car. I took the rearview mirror out of my own car. I put a call out on Facebook to get a vintage steering wheel, and it turns out my studio mate actually owned one, so that was an easy prop to get. For the car seat, my original idea was to just take the seat out of my own car and bring it in, but I realized this was easier said than done, so I used an office chair that was roughly the same shape as a car seat, and since I was going to have two cars race against each other, the idea was that the steering wheel and the car seat would be covered in the good girl scenario, and in the bad girl scenario, I just wouldn't use any coverings and just use plain old office chair as the background. While I was getting these car seat materials, I happened upon some skeleton gloves, and they didn't cost a whole lot. They struck me as being very visual, so I went ahead and picked them up, and that worked out to our benefit, because when Kaila was the good girl, she ended up wearing the skeleton gloves, and when she was the bad girl, it was her bare knuckles, but the rest of her was covered. The bad girl dress was something that Lux Tango owned. The look for the bad girl was somewhat inspired by Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins circa 1997. He used to dress very gothy, and that was our impetus for this particular look. The good girl look, however, was basically Kaila in regular makeup and hair, and then we happened to find a sweater around the studio. If we didn't have that, we would have used some like Goodwill sundress for the rest of our styling. To get the props in place, I had to use clamps to hold things so they were where they needed to be. For the back of the car, I just sliced cardboard in a particular shape, and then when we did a shot on the bad girl car, we reversed the cardboard so the curve was on the other edge. We filmed the good girl first because she had the least amount of makeup, spent about 30 more minutes in the makeup chair, and then had our bad girl scenario. I had written out a list of about 10 things that each of them could do, and really it was a list of 10 things the good girl could do, and then I just had the bad girl respond by throwing things around. Our final bit of the video required the bad girl to go off of a cliff, and because they're not in real cars, I decided to go for a more special effects route and have something where she spins into another reality, and maybe I put fire around her. To do that, I had to shoot her against a green screen, and my green screen setup was incredibly small. It really only needed the upper torso and head and hands. I had to tell Kaila, this is your limited area, and she was totally cool with it, but we lit 2 lights on the background and 2 lights on Kaila. I had to take this into Adobe After Effects to drop out the green area and then put in spirally patterns behind her. The spiral patterns I got from a pad of paper that I picked up at Target, and this pad of paper happened to have a whole bunch of different patterns to it. I think I bought it clearance for $5, so my total investment besides paying the model and the stylist was the pad of paper, the car seat covers, and the skeleton gloves, and I think everything else in the shoot I was able to borrow or create myself. The final product of this was, of course, the video that I intended to make, but when you're shooting video and you shoot with a 4K camera, it's very easy to pull stills out, so I got a lot of great still images that I'm able to use as fashion or art portfolio pieces, and of course I made time to shoot maybe 10 minutes each look for other still images. And altogether, I feel like this is one of the more successful shoots. I got a video, I got a lot of still images, I got more than one look out of it, and in these still images, I made use of gel lighting, which is where you put a colored gel in front of your lights and you're able to get really unique and strange effects. My thought process is these model shoots are not cheap, they take a lot of time and effort, and they have a lot of ideas to them, so you want to make sure that you're getting a whole bunch of material out of it. In case something goes wrong, you want to be able to say, at least I have the still images, at least I have the instax shots, at least I have the 4K footage that I'm able to pull complete stills from.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more creative tutorials, gear reviews and video art. Also check out our Patreon for weekly bonus videos and model photography sets.